Welcome to Today's View, the podcast where Elton and Amrinder take a fresh look at the issues that matter to all of us. From politics to culture, from technology to wellness, our hosts bring their unique perspectives and expertise to the table, sparking lively conversations that will keep you engaged and informed. Whether you're listening on your daily commute or watching on our YouTube channel, Today's View is your go-to source for insightful commentary on the latest developments shaping our world. So join us as we explore the big questions and uncover the hidden truths behind the headlines. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get started with Today's View.
Hey guys, welcome back to Today's View. I'm Elton.
I'm Amrinder. Welcome.
Welcome guys. Thanks for the love and support you showed us in the last episode. Hopefully we'll be pushing out more. And yeah, today's episode we're going to be talking about lack of inventory or supposed lack of inventory for vehicles. And Amrinder, you were car shopping there. What happened there?
Yeah, the car market. It's still crazy. Doesn't make sense. Used cars are sometimes priced higher than the new ones, and there's just huge waiting lists for everything. And we're not talking about specialty cars here. We're talking about normal cars. And so I was shopping with a family member, and we're trying to buy like a Honda Civic or a Hyundai Elantra or a Jetta, and the waiting list is like 6 to 9 months for these vehicles. It makes no sense. These are high inventory vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So is there really a chip shortage still, or is something else going on? That's what we're going to discuss today. So
I had one friend too. He was looking for an Elantra. His wife's car got totaled in an accident.
Yep.
And Elantra is like a base model. It's one of those not high-end cars, but high production cars, just because it's low pricing and whatnot.
Yep.
And yeah, here in Ontario, they told him it's a 9-month wait for an Elantra base model, which I find it really weird because it's not even a spec'd out car. There's no sunroof, no nothing.
Yeah.
So I find it hard to believe that a low-end car with low selling point is a 9-month wait.
Agreed. Certain cars you can understand for obviously low volume, high end cars. Even you can make a justification for the new Civic, even though it's been out for over a year now. New models sometimes get all the traction, but models that have been out for a while, like a Jetta, is 6 to 8 months wait. It makes absolutely no sense. So what's really going on? First of all, is the chip shortage still there? Because we've been reading up online, and some are saying they're all caught up. There's no chip shortage. Yeah. Some are saying there is some chip shortage. Obviously, we don't know we won't know the truth until we start looking at these factories and whatnot. But I have a feeling, because again, the other day I was driving around. I went by a Subaru dealer. I went by a Volvo dealer, and on these lots, obviously during COVID or just after COVID, we noticed when it was at peak, we noticed empty lots,
right.
empty showrooms and all of that. Now I'm seeing inventory on the lots. I'm seeing inventory in the showrooms. So you're still saying there are not enough vehicles. So I have a feeling something else is going on here.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this is actually beneficial to manufacturers and even dealers.
Yeah. I feel like it's maybe more for the dealership.
Yep.
Just because they have seen now that what they can take advantage of.
Yeah.
Again, this might be a little off topic, but just like people working from home, they have seen that, hey, I can work from home, no problem, save on all these stuff. Why should I work from the office? So I think that's what the dealerships are doing. They saw that there's lack of negotiation.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
they can
and
charge.
There's no sales. Before there used to be. You should be able to, even on a high volume car and low profit car like Elantra, Civic, and all that. It's a brand new first year model. You can usually shave off a few $100s or a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
On some of these pickup trucks, you could be saving up to 10, 15, 20,000. Sometimes they run sales. You don't see that anymore. So you're paying MSRP or higher, and we'll go over some of the tactics that some dealers are using, but there's no sales anymore. And I think the dealers are liking this.
You mean no negotiations?
No negotiation, in general. And there are no sales or events. Do you ever see a sale, or do you ever see
like a promotion?
Promotion,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't see that anymore, right?
Yeah, and I've noticed, like when I bought my Ioniq 5, they wouldn't let me negotiate because there was a waiting list for it.
Yeah.
Right. I can understand. Okay, it's a hot selling car and whatnot, but I feel like I was saying before, the dealerships now seen the other side where no one can negotiate and they can sell it for whatever price they prefer.
Yep.
And they use some kind of shady tactics on the side where they can get away with stuff, because over here in Ontario you cannot sell over MRSP.
Yeah, the rule is in Canada, I think overall is you cannot sell a vehicle over MRSP. So we're protected. We're lucky.
Yeah.
Our cousins to the south in the U.S., they're not so lucky. Dealers can pretty much in most states can charge over MRSP, and you're seeing cars going over 5, 10, even the high end cars going almost 100% over their value, like at times 100,000, when it was really bad. So they're controlling the market. It seems like they're, and here what they do instead of doing that, and we'll go over some of the sneaky tactics I've seen them charge. But interesting, a video came out on YouTube where this guy, we'll leave the link in the description below. He's in LA, right? And he was charging his Tesla, and he saw a parking lot. This is one of those indoor parking lots, and obviously with the open roof. So he goes in there, and there's literally, these are obviously Jeeps and Chrysler products, Dodge products. They're literally sitting, like hundreds of cars sitting there. And dealers are probably saying, and they're probably just parking there temporarily, but these cars have dust on them. They're brand new cars, and they have markups, and some ridiculous markups, such as a few thousand market adjustment is what they call it in the States. Is pretty much a markup. And then they also have crazy stuff like nitrogen and this and that, air and all that, which is just mostly made up. It may have some effect, but you don't really need it. And they're charging $400 or $500 on top on that. They're doing other thing. And what they're doing here in Canada, which I noticed, was some dealers, not all, not dealers. We're not going to say all dealers are the same. They're all bad. Some are really good dealers out there. And some of them are basically putting add-ons. So you can get the car MSRP, but then you have to get these add-ons, and they make them almost like mandatory. You have to get this. Secure Guard is one of them, which is like basically stickers of your VIN number plastered all over the car and around the car. So in case it gets stolen, it can be found. But we know that once the vehicle's on a container and out of the country, that has no effect. It means it's useless. And then they're putting nitrogen air costs. I know about a vehicle dealer was putting for both these things like a few $100s on that. They're sometimes forcing people to get extended warranty. If not, they'll move on to the next person. There was a article about how some dealers were doing this in Markham through Toyota, like a Highlander, which is a hot car. So they're doing, and some of them are even going far as taking the new cars because they can't charge them over MSRP. They are pretty much driving them around or having employees drive them as demo vehicles or whatever, and then selling them as used vehicles. So that gives them the right to charge over MSRP. And we know that a used vehicle, even if it's a few thousand kilometers on it, is costing more now than a brand new car. Why? Because supply and demand.
And it was the same with my Ioniq 5. When I bought it, it was technically a used car, even though it only had 10 kilometers on it. They said, it's a used car. The MRSP was kind of the same, but they charged more for extra coating and stuff for protection. And when I tried to negotiate, they're like, well, there's no room for negotiation because we'll just move on to the next person on the waiting list, right?
That's how the housing market was at peak.
The
builder was saying pretty much, get it signed now or move on, and there's the next person behind you. So they're taking advantage of people here, which I think is wrong.
Which I think also the dealerships have now seen that they can do all this, and now they're just going to play this game till someone reins them in. Again, the more people talk about this, the more they can be caught, because right now there's not a lot of people speaking up about this, right?
No, again, and a car is not something you plan over time, because some people, unfortunately, what happens is cars break down, get into an accident, and like our friends, and then they have to go out and buy a car immediately. And this is where they're being taken advantage of. Right. If you go buy a used one, you're paying more than new. It makes no sense to buy a used at that point. You go for a new one, And because, certain vehicles are not available, they're saying there's a waiting list. People tend to pay that extra, few $1,000s on each vehicle. So,
it's crazy. And what are they trying to gain out of this, right? The dealerships are obviously trying to make more money off this,
always.
But we're losing out as customers. And where's the government here to protect us, right? The cost of inflation is going up everywhere, and people can sometimes barely make ends meet.
Yep.
You need cars to transport.
Agreed.
Sometimes you cannot rely on public transit because they're not well built for going to places where we need to go.
I think the government's too busy charging taxes, which is another topic on its own. But luxury tax and whatnot, maybe people. Obviously, the cars have to be over 100,000, but we're already paying 13% on a car when we buy it, right?
Yeah.
So why are you charging more and more and more? And this is where it starts to affect slowly everybody. And then you buy the car, you pay taxes. You resell the car, you pay taxes.
Yeah.
So as it changes hands, every time you pay taxes, sometimes you pay more taxes than the car is worth itself, right?
Exactly.
So I think, instead of coming up with silly things like that, they should be working on other things, right? Maybe even holding the manufacturers accountable, right? Right now we're seeing there is a lack of anti-theft in a lot of cars. A lot of cars are getting stolen, right? Whether it be Canada, US, anywhere. But especially in Canada, there's a lot of vehicles getting stolen, some of the high-end cars. But why are manufacturers not being held accountable? That's my question.
Yeah, especially in the GTA. It seems like theft has really gone up.
Yep.
They're shipping the cars back to Africa or some sorts of that place.
Other countries, exactly. A lot of them.
It seems mostly in Africa. That's where they're going.
That's correct.
As per some CBC article. And just recently, we had a arrest gangs from Quebec. And I'm not sure why the gangs from Quebec are coming to GTA to take some cars.
That's where usually the port is. The port of the cars do end up going there, and off the container they go. Yeah. And there's a lot of red tape as well in terms of which we can get into, but we won't. But in terms of inspecting at ports and everything, and how they have limited time and not enough resources, and the vehicles are pretty much get through, some of them, right?
Yeah.
So, and when they do end up in these other countries, and you see the vehicles with even on their interior plates, you can't do much at that point. Obviously, you as a person whose car is stolen, you move on, your insurance pays you out, but your premiums are going up. Insurance goes up. So,
and it's not only your premiums.
Exactly.
It's your neighbors.
So at the end, we're all paying regardless.
Yeah. So because the neighbors' premiums go up because now there's a crime in your area.
Exactly. So why are we all paying for it, whereas manufacturers not being held accountable? I think they should. So let's say each vehicle gets stolen, there should be a fine back to the manufacturer. That way, there's incentive to improve, because right now there's no incentive. If anything, it's actually helpful to them. If cars get stolen, they sell more cars.
Yeah, because at the end, the insurance pays for that car. Exactly. Comes back to, we get the money, and then we buy another car. Their profits go up.
That's it.
For instance, Lexus is a very most stolen car.
Exactly.
It's been going on for years.
Yeah.
There's nothing new with the Lexus.
I mean, my dad's car got stolen, and this is over $100,000 Lexus, and there was no anti-theft device. I mean, Teslas, which you can get for like 60, 70, 80,000, or some of the other cheaper GM models, they have actual SIM cards in them. Most of the vehicles are tracking, whereas a car over 100,000 doesn't. That makes absolutely no sense.
Especially for Lexus, they should have some kind of tracking on it already.
Agreed.
It should be like a mandatory thing.
No, the reason why they get stolen the most is some of their vehicles, especially some of the SUVs, are worth a lot more in certain countries.
Right.
In Singapore, in Saudi countries, and other countries, they're worth a lot more in South Africa. So the incentive is you steal it from here, and it's worth 1.5 or 2 times more, or sometimes 3 times more in other countries, and you sell it. So the criminals have a good incentive. Even if it's used, they'll buy and sell it. But at the same time, what can be done is the question. What can be done, right?
Yeah, and honestly, obviously, they should increase their or make the anti-theft better. They should have some kind of tracking system on
100%. I think
right?
tracking at this point should be mandatory.
Yeah.
You know how the backup camera came mandatory. I think tracking and even certain things should be mandatory.
And the ability to brick a vehicle, just like how we brick our cell phones, right? If we report that our vehicle is stolen, they should be able through satellite to say, okay, brick this vehicle so that it's not used anymore, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Let's
That's
say,
a good point.
because if you are relying on the chips to make these cars work, there's no way you cannot make this bricked with this chip.
Yeah.
Right? You cannot say, oh, they can swap an engine or something.
Yeah.
You can actually add something to the chips or to the operating system to say, stop working.
Yeah.
Don't do this till
until a dealer comes in,
exactly.
swaps a part or
So
whatever.
So
right?
if you're relying on chips
Yeah.
to say that you need to sell vehicles, then obviously you can make something with a chip to deter thefts.
Agreed. Agreed.
Right now we all have keyless vehicles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We need to have something that can block transmission of that, right? Because sometimes what happens is we've seen videos where people come with antennas, they come close to your door, they copy the signal,
Yeah. Agreed.
right?
Now there are those obviously Faraday boxes and other companies that basically have a signal blocking box. Even City of Brampton was giving them out for free to deter some of these, which I think is again a waste of taxpayers' money. It's a good incentive.
This should have fallen on the manufacturers and not on the city to rely on
so
this.
we're not paying out of this, right?
So again, the manufacturers get out of this. They don't even say like, "Hey, we'll help you. We'll provide this," right?
Yeah. It's like, too bad, it's our side. I'm sorry. Buy another vehicle from us, right? So that's wrong. The other thing I noticed was in terms of in terms of crime in the GTA, obviously it's going up, especially car thefts. And there's a big bust the other day, so the police are trying their best, to prevent this. But at the end, we all pay for it. Insurance goes up, we all pay for it. So we're paying for it. The manufacturers are not paying for it, and the manufacturers are already taking advantage, as I said, when it comes to prices, gouging, even keeping some inventory hidden sometimes. And I think that's ridiculous. And on top of that, another thing I want to talk about, which for car manufacturers, what they're trying to do, is subscription-based services now. You heard about this, right?
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So heated seats in a BMW, if you want it, then even though you paid for that, like you paid for, I want this package, which has heated seats. In order to use them, you got to pay X amount of hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars annually.
Yeah.
You want power limitations on cars, you want to increase it, we're going to have to pay extra. So that's becoming a little bit ridiculous. Sooner or later, they're going to start charging you left and right for little things.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, it kind of started off with Tesla. They used to make the same vehicles, but let's say you bought not the long range version.
Yeah,
the low range, it obviously would be charged less.
Yeah.
But Tesla has the ability through satellites to increase that range. And they did that when we had, in the States, they had some hurricanes.
Yeah.
People needed to get out of that area. They increased their range automatically, right?
So it's possible. What I like about Tesla, what they do well is obviously their software is amazing. They put SIM card in every vehicle.
Yeah.
You can track it. You can pretty much turn on your car, unlock your car in another country because it works through data. Those are good things, but yes, limiting certain things, or especially if you buy a car with all the features and then you sell it, and then the other person loses a feature and you have to pay Tesla extra for that.
Yeah,
that is very annoying.
So BMW is experimenting with subscription service for heated seats. Mercedes-Benz is experimenting with limiting your speed.
If you want extra, you got to unlock and pay extra.
Yeah, you got to pay extra $1,000 yearly to get higher speed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So if you're able to put all these limitations, why can't you add the limitations for theft?
Yeah.
Right? Why can't you do something? Like, I know there's facial recognition now, right? On cell phones. You mean to tell me you can't do facial recognition on cars? Or a fingerprint or something? Something that's anti-theft, right?
Agreed.
Because you don't want someone else driving your car, and fingerprint is great. We all do it with our cell phones now. So we cannot all just say, "Oh, you're taking my data with that," because we are using fingerprints on our phone, right?
Technology.
Some people use their face to unlock the phones, right? So why can't we get that in the cars?
Agreed.
So again, I feel like the manufacturers and the dealerships, they're in cahoots to, basically let things be till the government reins in.
Yeah.
And the government always will not do anything till we talk about it. Right? Because cars get stolen, our premiums go up for the insurance, right? And then what happens?
We just cry to one another about it, and that's it, right?
And what happens in our neighborhood? Let's say it got stolen from my property.
Yeah.
But if you were my neighbor, your insurance rates go up because there was a crime in the area, right? And this is unfortunately how Ontario works, where the insurance are pretty bad, where they just increase your premiums for no reason.
Agreed. We pay one of the highest premiums in the world for insurance.
And insurance they can also add something to the manufacturer and say, hey, your cars are getting stolen a lot. We don't want to insure it. But they're in cahoots too, because what? They know they can increase the price on your premiums and take more money from you. And we need the government. We need the government to step in and say, hey, you guys need to stop taking money from the people, because the rate of inflation is going up.
Agreed.
People can afford groceries. If you don't have a car in Ontario, you can't go to work because the transit system is so bad, right? So we need people to step up and talk to the politicians or their local MPs and, get things taken care of. Otherwise, everything will just be going back to the crap there.
Agreed. So in conclusion, what I suggest is if you're out there shopping for a car, try to plan ahead. If you know your car is, coming up for a lease, or it needs to be replaced, or it's, about to die, it's better to get rid of it sooner than later, and then plan ahead. This time, think almost 6 months, a year ahead, which is kind of ridiculous, but I know if you're able to, please do so. That way you order that new car, you don't pay the premium on it, you wait 6-8 months, you get that car, and by the time you sell your car, obviously there's going to be uncontrollable certain circumstances where you have no control, where you will be in a collision, you'll need a car right away, where your car breaks down, you'll need a car right away. But for those people who can kind of transition over and have that time, order your vehicle ahead of time, so you don't have to pay a lot more or for a used one. So if you can, great, or shop around, check some other manufacturers who do have inventory, or dealers who do have inventory in stock. Even if it's a little further, it might be worth it. So those are some of the tips I can recommend. And don't be afraid to push back. Other than the price MSRP on a new car, other add-ons usually can be waived. So talk to the dealer about that, and make sure you fight for that, because they're going to try to add on things left and right. So,
and also talk to your MPs. Get involved.
Yes,
be involved with your community, because the more stronger we are together is better, and divided we fall apart. So
agreed.
Group up, talk to your MPs, talk to your friends. Let's try to change things around, because otherwise they're just going to take advantage of this, right? So we'll conclude with this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, if you're on one of the podcast platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple. Make sure to subscribe to us on there. We'll try to have an episode almost every other week. So thank you guys for joining, and have yourselves a good day there.
Thanks. Catch you guys on the next one.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to today's View. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights from our discussion. If you have any thoughts or feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us on social media or leave a comment on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We'll be back next week with more engaging topics and thought-provoking analysis. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring the world around you. This has been today's View, and we'll talk to you soon.